We've seen the best version of this Green Bay Packers defense. We haven't seen the best version of this offense, but we just might see it this week. I'll tell you why.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on the social medias, Locked On Packers. Subscribe on Facebook. You can find us there. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you find podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, not just your team every day, but now the number one sports podcast network in the land. Today's Locked On Packers brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We know what the best version of this defense looks like. We saw them absolutely destroy the Detroit Lions in week one, stymie, suffocate the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels, with their guys. That was before the wheels fell off, and I think you could make the case the Packers contributed to the wheels coming off of the Washington Commanders. And then we saw a Detroit Lions defense that was playing really well not play at the kind of level that the Packers had played, albeit at home versus, at the Link on Sunday night for the Detroit Lions. But still, this Packers defense has shown it can play at that elite level. And I think ceiling is, to me, this is gonna sound weird, but maybe not. To me, the ceiling is more important than the consistency. Because we've seen so many teams have these incredible 10, 12, even 17 game runs. The Minnesota Vikings did it last year. But you watch that team and you went, but what is the ceiling of that team? They got their chance against the Detroit Lions at the end of the year and got their doors blown off. They got their chance against the LA Rams and they looked terrible. Sam Darnold looked like he did on Sunday. What is the ceiling of that team? The ceiling of this Packers team has yet to be determined because we've yet to see the offense fully exercise its potential. We saw half. We saw half against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where Jordan Love went into absolute flamethrower mode. We know that they're capable of doing that. The down-to-down consistency of the run game hasn't been there. Maybe they can find that. I thought this was Matt LaFleur's best called game in a while. There was a nice balance of run and pass in the way that I care about balance. Now, would I like to have seen some more throws? Yeah, but I understood this Giants front is really good as pass rushers and really bad as run stoppers. And the Packers proved that. They could not stop the Packers' ground game. It made sense to go heavy play action, take your shots. Teams, given the way that the teams are going to play them, the down the field balls are going to have to be few and far between. You need to hit them when they're there, which means Christian Watson, please catch the ball. Romeo Doubs, please catch the ball. You're going to need to create yards after catch opportunities underneath. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that without Josh Jacobs. We'll talk about the injuries. Josh Jacobs sounds like not going to be serious, going to avoid surgery. Without Jaden Reed, who could be back soon. Without Tucker Kraft, who will not be back. And without Marshawn Lloyd, who also could be back. He has started to ramp up his work here as well. And if you just want to pull in those, you want to reach for something, those 2010 narratives, James Starks comes in. All of a sudden, the offense looks a little bit different. They couldn't run the ball. I'm just saying. I'm not saying. But I am just saying. So the thing about this week to me is the book on the Packers was if you play cover two, specifically two-man, they were just not going to have answers for you. Except that's not true. Our pal Derek Kerher from Packer Report had this outstanding stat. Against cover two this season, Jordan Love is completing almost 92% of his passes, 91.7%. He is 33 of 36 for 392 yards. That is preposterous. Preposterous. What do you have to have a plan for against Brian Flores? Cover two. You have to the cover zero and cover two. He's going to get it to in non-traditional ways. He's going to get to some non-traditional Tampa, but still, it's too high. And it cashes out a lot the same way against man coverage this season. Jordan Love has been one of the best quarterbacks the entire year against man coverage. The Packers have found options that are not just let's run mesh 45 times in a game, though they might do that too. Jordan Love has put up some big numbers against Brian Flores in the past. Some of his best games, statistically and on tape, have been against Brian Flores. But the Vikings got after those guys last year twice. And just like, now I did say the Packers would beat the Eagles because they wanted that game more, but they didn't play well enough to win. You know that all these divisional games for the Packers, they've been circled for weeks, for months probably. And so you have the plans from the second halves of those games. If Brian Flores is going to play man, you know what that looks like. You've seen Brian Flores enough now that you know what this cat and mouse game is going to look like in all likelihood. Now, he's going to come with some wrinkles. He's going to beat you on some disguises. That's just the nature of it. You go back to 2023. The Packers needed a little bit of a spark coming off the Tommy DeVito debacle. Coincidentally, coming off the Giants game. And you get that performance from Jordan Love. Some of the best throws. That throw to Jaden Reed, which, by the way, was to beat cover two, is still one of my favorite throws of Jordan Love's NFL career. It's not the most impressive. And he, by the way, had his best grade from Pro Football Focus of his career. Bested the Steelers game, bested the Cowboys game. He's had two of the highest graded games of his NFL career this season. If you don't think Jordan Love is a top 10 quarterback this year, you are watching the wrong sport. Love's game on Sunday was one of the best games I've ever seen him play. And this is now just 2-3 weeks after seeing what I called the best game of his career in Pittsburgh. Both, by the way, on the road. And if it's not those games, it's the one in Dallas in the playoffs on the road, or it's the one in Minnesota when your team has to have it on the road. So Jordan Love is doing his part. Now it's up to Matt LaFleur to continue to do his part. Is he going to play with the same balance against the Minnesota Vikings as he did against the New York Giants? One of the reasons why you do that against the Giants is because they cannot stop the run at all. At all. It's crazy. A team with Dexter Lawrence that cannot stop the run. It really is bizarre. This is a much better run defense for the Minnesota Vikings, 12th in DVOA, though this defense overall is 18th, which I think speaks to they invested heavily into their front. That has not paid the dividends that they were hoping it would. And so this Packers team now, if they just caught the ball, we talked about this yesterday. If they had just caught the ball at a league average rate on Sunday afternoon, they win that game by 2 scores. If they had just caught the interceptions Jameis threw to them, Matt LaFleur talked about this, and he said this I'm not sure I've ever heard Matt LaFleur put it this succinctly when he was like, yeah, it's a very different game if we just catch the ball. Like, this was something I told our team. And I loved, if you didn't listen to the squad show, I was not on it, but I listened to it and had a great time listening to Brandon and Coach break it all down. I thought they did a great job of pointing out that, it's not the number of penalties, it's the placement of the penalties. drive-killing penalties, those kinds of things. Now, the Packers' offense, what we saw on Sunday was their ability to overcome them. You get a nice play, you get a stop on defense, and then all of a sudden it's a holding penalty. Or it's a block in the back penalty on a punt return. That sets you back. Well, the Packers' offense was able to overcome that because Jordan Love was playing at just that high a level. If that's the version of Jordan Love you're going to get, we're going to see the ceiling of this offense. We saw it for a half. It looks pretty good in the first half against the Lions, or at least the first 2 drives. I think they are tailor-made this week. Not because of the defense being so bad. It's not. It's a fine defense. It's a middling defense, and it's a chaos defense. So if they can create some turnovers, it's going to mitigate some of the yardage that they're going to give up, which they are inevitably going to give up. We saw the Bears beat them with some big play action. We saw the Packers use some of this heavy play action, get into 6 offensive linemen, run the ball. That had some success. Forget about the tight ends. Though I think Josh Wiley, they found a player here. I don't know why he couldn't play for the 49ers when when George Kittle was hurt. And Matt LaFleur said they're going to keep giving Luke Musgrave opportunities. He got outsnapped in the second half. Matthew Golden, I think, was almost certainly on a pitch count, but was hugely impactful when he was out there. The second reaction play coming across the field, Packers are going to have to attack outside the numbers against these 2 high coverages. Jordan Love is an excellent thrower of the ball outside the numbers. For my money, the best out route thrower in the NFL. I think Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, you got to have a big arm to throw those big outbreaking routes. But they also attack on those big overs outside the numbers. You wait for them to clear and you hit them almost like, corner spacing, where it looks like a corner route or a sail route. So this offense with this defense at their peaks can beat anybody. They got to put those together. You just got to get hot at the right time, guys. You just got to get hot at the right time. And I think this week is a great week to bring in some of that chaos from the Brian Flores defense that they borrowed from last year. It is the perfect opportunity to bring that back against J.J. McCarthy, who has been, we'll talk about that next. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. The Packers, 6.5-point favorites against the Minnesota Vikings. They are minus 300 on the money line. So you're going to have to lay a significant amount of juice to get them on the money line. I think they're going to win this game by a touchdown. But our friends at FanDuel do not see a lot of points in this game. The total is 41.5. I think that's more an indictment of this Minnesota Vikings offense right now. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when you place your first $5 bet and you hit it. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen every day. The NFL season is finally here. For your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler the Madman Rowland gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We talked about the pass rush coming out of this game. This is going to be a week. Now, Christian Darrisaw had some struggles last week against the Bears. But J.J. McCarthy, it was rough, man. And you look at some of the underlying metrics, some of the advanced metrics, the completion percentage above expectation, the off-target throw rate, those kinds of things. J.J. was, I saw the calls on social media. They were loud for him to be flat out benched. It got a little bit better late in the game, but you can see the frustration on Justin Jefferson's face. You can see his frustration when he comes over to the sideline. These are throws that are not even close at times. Or he's throwing go balls to nowhere. And so do I think you could just play the game that they've been playing? Rush 4, move Micah Parsons around, try and create some favorable matchups and just make JJ McCarthy read everything out? Yeah, they could do that. I think Kevin O'Connell is too good a coach to play that simple a style of defense. I think you're going to have to change the picture on JJ. You're going to have to show him pressure and back out of it. You're going to have to show him nothing and send extra bodies. Even against an offensive line that had some issues and a backup to the backup in New York, the Packers did not send heavy pressure at Jameis. Now, that part of that is that they do not want to give up explosive plays. And they don't. I don't know if Jeff Hafley will make any adjustments to the game plan this week. I think there would be wisdom. I certainly could see the case for why you would just say, we're going to keep doing what we're going to do. We're going to make JJ McCarthy and this offense drive the ball down the field. Ben Fennell had this stat, our pal Ben. The fewest 10-plus plays allowed this season. The Packers and the Texans are at the top. The Packers, 96 plays allowed of 10 yards or more. The fewest plays allowed of 20 yards or more. The Packers. They do not allow you to get down the field, and this is an offense that just cannot matriculate the ball. So, could you see we're just going to play our defense, and we believe that will be better than this Vikings offense? Yeah. I think you could do that. I also think there are going to be opportunities here, especially on third down, where you want to heat this guy up, where you want to show some exotics, show some double A gap pressures, show some all-out pressure looks, and make JJ make some throws. I think this defense overall has been a little too passive. Justice Mosqueda, who was just on the show recently with us here, does a great job covering the Packers for Acme Packing Company, pointed out that this is the worst quick pressure season by Rashawn Gary in his NFL career. That cannot be. And look, I've been a Rashawn Gary defender. He started the season playing really well. I don't understand why he's asking out of these games. The last 2 weeks, he's just not playing enough snaps. I don't understand it. But you're also not getting enough from Devontae Wyatt. You're not getting enough from Carl Brooks. Lucas Van Ness could be back this week. Started to practice at the end of last week, working him into this week. Maybe they'll save him for Thanksgiving. I don't know that you necessarily want to do that. I'd like to get him some reps out there first. I'm talking myself out of this a little bit because what we saw last year from the Packers was they evolved into a chaos defense. They were getting the turnovers. They were getting the takeaways. And then they stopped. What they started to get was sacks. They started to get disruptions, pressures on these blitz looks, sometimes just sending 4. I think they need to get back to some of those simulated pressure looks where they're going to bring 4. You just don't know which 4. The other thing that is just an interesting data point here. We saw Chris Shula against the Seahawks not match personnel. And teams are doing this around the league. They're not matching your big personnel. You want to play 21, you want to play 12, you want to play 13. Cool. We're not playing 3 linebackers because we don't want a linebacker running with your receivers if you have good receivers. The Vikings have good receivers. Javon Bullard is playing outstanding football. You want to be a nickel in this game as much as you can. And if Quay Walker is hurt, we don't know if he's hurt, but if Quay Walker is hurt and out of this game, now you're playing 2 backup linebackers. You're playing Isaiah McDuffie out of position, or at least out of his preferred position. And you got to play Tyron Hopper, who I think has done some nice things. I like what Tyron Hopper has done. But he's just not, he's not ready for, I think, a full-time role. Now, I've seen some suggestions. Hey, just make him the mic. That's not how defensive coaches work. He's talented. He's strung some nice plays together, but they trust Isaiah McDuffie potentially to a fault. When you look at this Minnesota Vikings offense, though, There are times when they can run the ball. There are times when they look balanced. They clearly want to be more balanced this year. But the offense is just, it's 29th, guys. It is 29th this year. And part of that is because they can't throw the ball effectively. They're 28th in DVOA throwing the ball. They're 14th running it. The problem for the Packers is if you let a team like, say, the Giants, look at all the long drives they had. It's 3 yards here. It's 4 yards here. It's a check down here. It's a check down here. And now you're in the red zone. Now you're in the red zone against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Kevin O'Connell. That's not really where you want to be. I think they're going to have to take some chances, trust the offense, and say, we're not going to let an offense that is struggling have any quarter. It's going to be an aggressive, come after you kind of game plan. I think that makes sense in this game too. We'll see which side of the coin Jeff Hafley wants to play it. And maybe there's not just two sides. Maybe there is a middle ground here to find. Maybe you start to ramp that up because against Jared Goff, I want to see it. I want to see the aggressiveness that they brought to week 1 because they're going to have a plan for those pressure packages. So what's the counterpunch? On a short week, what can you bring? Now, the injuries are going to play a role in how this offense, this Packers offense looks as a counter to whatever you're going to be defensively. Let's talk about that next.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Matt LaFleur said, hopefully a couple of windows to open. Marshawn Lloyd, Jaden Reed on IR. They've been ramping up. Could they get, I don't think either of them are going to play this week, but could you get them back for the stretch run? How impactful would it be to get Jaden Reed back as part of this offense when you need that yards after catch guy? Marshawn Lloyd, you need some explosiveness in this run game. Emmanuel Wilson, I thought, did some nice things. You're going to look at the final numbers. You're going to say, oh, well. But I liked what he did. Chris Brooks as a pass protector. Like, if it's 3rd and long, I do not want to see Josh Jacobs out there. I want to see Chris Brooks out there. If it's 3rd and 8+, get Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson off the football field. Chris Brooks has a rep in pass protection where he looks straight up like an offensive lineman. Great base, great technique, hands inside, and just like pass sets against a linebacker. It is impressive stuff. He can, as far as I'm concerned, he can be a Packer for life. And you go back to some of those Aaron Rodgers teams when they couldn't run the ball, they would just have John Kuhn out there. And at the risk of saying something nice about John Kuhn, he was really good at it. Like, one of the reasons why you couldn't blitz the Packers is because John Kuhn was just going to pick up those pressures, and Aaron Rodgers was going to find Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb or James Jones or Greg Jennings or Devontae Adams or someone. Hell, it could Jared Boykin, Jermichael Finley. Like, there were plenty of places to throw the ball. The Packers have plenty of places to throw the ball if you can protect them. They need some quick answers. Hey, let's throw that RPO screen to Jaden Reed. Hey, let's throw that spinner reverse, not to Bo Melton, but to Jaden Reed. Hey, let's line up Jaden Reed in the backfield with a Chris Brooks, with a Josh Jacobs, and make defenses account for all that, plus everything he can do. You want to attack 2 high coverages? Let Jaden Reed go attack the seam. You want to play quarters against the Packers? Here's Jaden Reed coming down at your safety, and you got to run with a 4.39 receiver who is a proven vertical slot winner in the NFL. Now, the Josh Jacobs part of this, he avoids surgery on the knee, but ruling him out so quickly makes you concerned that there is some sort of damage. Now, he's a tough guy, but he's a tough guy who's already looking like some of that explosiveness is not there this year. Maybe a little rest gets his legs under him, but I didn't think he looked super explosive to start the season either. Sometimes these guys need to, get into a rhythm a little bit more. He does seem to get stronger as the game goes on. Speaking of getting stronger as the game goes on, as he gets healthier, Aaron Banks had his best game as a Packer on Sunday, and he's getting healthier. I thought Sean Ryan, aside from one rep against Dexter Lawrence, played really well. I thought Jordan Morgan, aside from 1 or 2 reps against Dexter Lawrence, played really well. Okay, if the bar is, can you just hold up against Dexter Lawrence for 95% of your pass rush reps? Then, that's fine. Dexter Lawrence is awesome. The Minnesota Vikings do not have Dexter Lawrence. I know he's not having his best season, but he's still a really, really, really good player. This offense, we talked about the ceiling. Can you get back to that place offensively? Place we saw them get to last year at times. A place we certainly saw them get to in 2023. With the way Jordan Love is playing, now you're getting Savion Williams deep balls. You're getting the perfectly timed end around to Bo Melton. The perfectly timed gadget spinner single wing runs called by Matt LaFleur. I thought Matt LaFleur called, again, his best game probably of the season, or at least since the first half of the Detroit game. I don't think it was like great calls against the Steelers. That was just Jordan Love on a heater. This team is starting to get these pieces together. Christian Watson finding his role in this offense. Dontavian Wicks has kind of been relegated to the sidelines, but Dontavian Wicks to me has always been like the go-to player example for me, and I think Romeo Doubs can be like this too, is Juwan Jennings. In the field of play on third down, I would like Dontavian Wicks to get in the slot when the Jaden Reed's not out there and go beat somebody on an option route. Go beat somebody, just one-on-one. It's 3rd and 6, just go win. He can do that. I don't think you run your offense through him, but he can do that. That's Juwan Jennings. In the red zone, Romeo Doubs is generally money in the red zone. But now you add Christian Watson into that mix. You have multiple tight ends. Musgrave, I think he's just going to be an inconsistent player right now. But they found ways to use Josh Wiley. They found ways to use John Fitzpatrick. Matt LaFleur is going to use all his guys, I think sometimes to a fault. So where are you going? What are you getting from these guys? In the short run, not a lot. But by the end of the season, for this stretch run, you could be getting a whole hell of a lot from these guys. So not necessarily relevant to this week, but I think it's still worth mentioning because even if I don't expect to see Lloyd or Reed this week, you're ramping up. You're finding Savion Williams can do more. You're finding Emmanuel Wilson can still do plenty for your offense. And that if you don't have Josh Jacobs, if you don't have that guy you can just give 20 carries to in a game, Jordan Love can take care of the rest. He certainly did that on Sunday. Back tomorrow here, Lily Zhao is going to join us. We've got our crossover Thursday coming, so a lot to come here on Locked On Packers this week as we get ready for a crucial stretch. Really from now to the end of the season, this is a sprint. The 1 seed, probably out of reach. The Eagles do have some tough games to close out their season, but this division still very much in their hands. You got the Bears twice, you got the Vikings twice, you got the Lions. You go 4-1 in those games, you're probably going to win the division. Yeah, especially if you sweep the Lions. But even if you lose to the Lions, you're already ahead. And they, so you have some common losses, the Eagles. So these tiebreakers, they're gonna come into play here at the end of the season. So you got to win these games. You got to win these games, and the Packers can still have an 11, 12, 13 win season. Now they'd have to win out to get to 13, but it's not crazy. It's not crazy. Not given the ceiling of this team. All right, follow me on the social medias. Follow the podcast on the social medias. Subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. We're going to be live after the game on Sunday. 30 minutes of my show, then 60 minutes of the squad show, 90 minutes of post-game show on the #1 sports podcast network and the #1 Green Bay Packers podcast, Locked On Packers, so you can stay Locked On Packers.